Hey, listeners, Sounds Like MLM, but okay, the podcast, the only podcast on the internet that talks about the predatory nature of multi level marketing, aka MLM. I'm Sasha Zazi here with my co host, Katie Young. This is a very special and very timely episode regarding some of Lularoe's shady business practices. This is part one of a two-part episode series, and I'm sure quite a few of our listeners have read the Bloomberg expose that came out several days ago that detailed the unbelievable business ethics the company has done. It's a great read. So if you haven't read it yet, we'll link it in the show notes. And we are very fortunate today to be interviewing one of the ex-Lularoe sellers featured in the Bloomberg article, Roberta Blevins, who is going to share more of her story about her time in the company. So thanks for coming on the show, Roberta.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So Roberta, first things first, how did you get involved in Lularoe?
Well, it was back in the fall of 2015. I'm sorry. I was part of a mom group, and one of the moms in this group had started posting tons of pictures of herself in these bright, colorful leggings. And I mean, I was already wearing leggings, and I love them because they're very comfortable and they're easy to wear. And so she was posting all these pictures, and everybody was going, "Oh my gosh, this is so cute. I love them." And she was sort of kind of doing this like market research for herself, going, "If I were to sell these, or is anybody interested?" And so I reached out and I was like, "What is this? What's going on?" And she kind of talked to me about it. And I started doing my research from there. And that's sort of kind of just how I heard about it. That's sort of how it started. It was just by word of mouth.
By word of mouth, like
yes, on Facebook. Yeah, just like,
right.
Hey, what's going on? What is this? And I'm assuming that's how most people heard of it as well. I had never had a pair of their leggings or any of their dresses or anything like that when I first heard of it. I didn't even purchase anything, I think, until January. I started looking into it. One of the very first things, I'm not an MLM person. I had done one MLM in the past with my cousin because she had asked me, "Hey, can you sign up? And, you can get the discount. And, the people at this party are already buying things and I can put it on yours." And I was like, "Okay, whatever. Like, sounds
pressure's
good.
on.
Whatever."
Yeah, the pressure's on.
And it really was just sort of like, "Hey, you'll help me out and we're family and you'll get this free stuff." And I was like, whatever. It works. I think I, tried to recruit or tried to sell for like a month and a half, maybe 2 months, and was like, "Oh, this is clearly not for me. This is not anything that I'm interested in. I am not a body wrap person. I am not a buy shakes and vitamins from me." I've been in the beauty industry for 17 years. And so, the predatory nature of MLM is like, "Oh my God, girl, you work in a salon, you'd be great at this." And so you're like, okay. And I mean, there's been so many people that have tried to do that just because I work in a salon and I talk to women all day. But, it was my cousin and I said, whatever, big deal. And so I had never really been an MLM person. And so when I first started researching Lularoe and had found that it was a multi-level marketing company, the first thing I did is I opened up Google and I typed "Lularoe is a scam." And I should have just kept that foreshadowing in the back of my head and just never even signed up. But there was nothing. There was nothing negative about Lularoe. Everything was positive. Everything was about how it was this company that was blessing lives and strengthening families and, giving women empowerment and independence. And that was something that I had always been looking for. I was in a very vulnerable place. My father had passed away a few years earlier. And it made me realize the importance of family. And so being in the salon, you work all weekends, you work every evening. And my daughter was about to start school. And I thought, you know what, I can't miss all the birthday parties that she's going to be invited to and all of these events and PTA things. And so I was looking for something that was going to be more flexible for me. Even though a salon is an incredibly flexible job where I made great money, I was looking for something where I could stay home and not have to be out in the salon. And I was working in LA, and so I was driving back and forth, and I was working in LA once a month and working here in San Diego, and it was just so much work, and it was just so much dread. And the thought of being able to run a business out of my house that was doing, I mean, back then in late 2015, early 2016, Lularoe was booming. It was
Oh, yeah.
like,
Yeah.
everybody wanted a piece of the pie. Everybody was buying leggings. Everybody wanted the Irmas and the Amelias and everything. It was like, I want this. I need this. Do you have this? And I was just looking at these parties I'd be invited to, and everything would sell out. And I looked at my husband and I said, I can do this. And he basically was like, well, if you do this, you're doing it without me. And he was incredibly unsupportive, which now in hindsight, like I understand why. But at the time I was like, you just don't believe in my dreams,
Right.
because
Well,
there
that's
was
what they tell you to say.
well,
That's what they tell you
100%.
to say. Yeah.
And there were so many people in my ear because, as soon as you're like, I think I'm interested, everybody's like, oh my God, you have to do it. It's so amazing. And so I started watching YouTube videos of these sellers that were like, how much you can make and how much you can do and what you can and how you can grow. And I was really obsessed with this one woman. I won't say her name, but she was very popular on YouTube. And she became someone that I reached out to. And I said, I think that you and I have a very similar personality. I think that we would be friends. I'm interested. Can you tell me more about Lularoe?
Well, that's like half the reason they have those videos out there, right? Like
Yeah.
it's kind of
Uh-huh.
promoting themselves. It's like,
Yes,
here
100%.
are 5 tips for your Lula room, and here are the 5 mistakes I made before I onboarded. It's just stuff like that. And then at the end of every episode or video, they say, if you want, you can join my team. So it's like they
Mm-hmm.
make themselves into little mini celebrities. So you're like, oh well, I really jive with Susie over here. So of
Mm-hmm.
course I'm going to reach out to her. Her videos are fantastic.
Right. And, it was a really great way for me to see someone's personality and say, is this someone that I would trust to train me essentially, or give me information or take care of me if I have a problem? And so I reached out to her and she goes, oh yeah, of course. What part of California do you live in? Because she was also in California, but Northern California. And I said, I'm in San Diego. And she said, oh my gosh, I have a girl in San Diego. She'd be perfect. I'm not taking anybody on my team, but I'm co-sponsoring, which I'll talk about more in a little bit later. But she says, I'm co-sponsoring this girl who lives really close to you. Let me get you in touch with her. And so this girl in San Diego eventually became my sponsor because I wanted someone who was close so that if I had a problem, I would have somebody that was close by
Makes
to keep me
sense. Yeah.
accountable. I didn't want to have some upline that was in New York City or Texas that I never got to see. I wanted to have a relationship with this person because I was very serious about this business. If I was going to make it work, I needed to be serious about it. And so I went over to her house and I met her. I shopped with her, got my first Amelia and my first Sarah. And I was just like, okay. I loved the clothes. Back then, the quality was amazing. The prints were not covered in triangles. And you could tell that the quality was better. I noticed the quality going downhill while I was in Lularoe. But back these 2015 and 2016 garments had much higher quality and I fell in love. I'm not, I'm a mom. I'm in my mid to late 30s now, and I'm a mom, and I'm not a revealing kind of person. So the fact that these shirts weren't low cut, I felt like, okay, a woman would wear this. This isn't like something that you get where, your boobs are hanging out. I didn't want that anymore. I'm married. I don't need the attention.
You
And
don't need to go
so,
to Forever 21
right, I
anymore,
don't
is what
want to
you're
shop
saying.
at
Yeah.
Forever 21 anymore. I am no longer 21. And so I liked that there was a little bit of modesty. I didn't care so much about the religious aspect. I was not raised religious. And so for me, like, whatever, that's fine. If that's how you want it to be, that's totally fine. But anyway, and I loved just that I could wear something and feel attractive without having to let everything hang out to feel attractive. And I decided to jump on board. And in February of 2016, I filled out the paperwork. At that time, it was a piece of paper that you printed out that you filled out, that you signed, and that you had to take a photo of and then email it to Lularoe. And that was your contract to join. And I believe it was a 6-week waiting list. When I joined, it was not called the queue. There was just like, oh, we have a lot of people that want to join. It never became the queue or this Q club thing that they did until after I had joined. So very, very little information for me, because my upline was like, oh yeah, I signed in like the next week, or signed up, and the next week I had my clothes. And for me, I signed up, I got everything ready, and my quote unquote Lula room sat empty for 6, maybe 7 weeks, because they were so unbelievably backed up that like you couldn't get anything. You couldn't get any, like it was just insane how many people were joining and how fast it was going. And it was just insane. I guess that's the best explanation of how fast this company grew from the moment I heard of it until the moment that I onboarded. It just imploded. It was just massive.
And with that, so you said that this company felt a lot different than Mary Kay or It Works or all the other MLMs. What specifically about it? Just that was it the sell of like, well, you're empowering women, blah 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 blah? Was it that it was clothing, so it actually felt like you were investing in proper inventory? Because I think that a lot of people fall into that trap with Lularoe, is that you can make your own boutique in your garage.
Right. Yeah, I think it was that. I mean, it really, and again, my only other actual experience with an MLM was, with It Works for like 6 weeks or 2 months or whatever it was. So I started seeing things in It Works that I was like, oh, I don't want to have to pay for a website. I don't want to have to pay my monthly fee to stay in. I don't want to have to buy a bunch of stuff that I don't need to stay active. I didn't like all of that. And that was why I had always shied away from MLM with like these recruitment requirements and like you don't make any money unless you have a team and all of these things. With Lularoe, like you would buy a shirt for $16 and sell it for $36. You would get a $20 profit. So for me, the fact that I was getting 50 plus profit versus, selling a mascara and getting $3 or whatever the conversion rate is for other companies. To me, it felt like, well, I'm actually getting paid a decent amount for what I'm selling. So that was one thing, whereas it was just such a much higher commission that you were getting. And the fact that there was no catalog where anybody could just buy a black pair of leggings from anybody. It wasn't like that. And so I liked that it created like a trust between the consultant and the consumer.
And that was a huge selling point for Lularoe. I've seen some of the Lularoe parties, and they said, well, whatever you see today, you can pick it up today and take it home today. You don't have to pay for shipping. You don't have to wait 4 to 6 weeks for delivery. And unfortunately, that also meant that a lot of women were buying a lot of inventory so that they could have everything available to their customers. Right.
Yeah. So because there is no catalog, everybody is different. So a lot of people don't understand how Lularoe works. And I get questions all the time, like, do you just blind buy? And so what happens is, I don't know how many styles they have now, but I wanted to say there was maybe 30 styles when I was in. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more now, and they've retired some, but most people only carry like 15 of the 30 styles. And so you could go to Sally's boutique down the street and she's got mostly skirts and tops. And then you go to Mary's boutique across the street and she's got leggings and dresses and sweaters. And so there's this sort of like, it's encouraged and it's a positive thing. Like, oh, I don't have that, but let me, reach out and see if I can find it for you. And so I loved that because I could help my team. I was like, okay, if I build a team, I can help them if I don't have it, maybe my team has it. And so I was like, okay, that's a little different because you're actually passing the competition. You're passing the sale on to the competition. And that was, there's a book called, oh gosh, what's it called? Um, I'll have to remember it. But there was a book that Lularoe loves to tell us to read. And it's literally, The Go-Giver. And it's about,
I'm sorry. It's just such a, that is quite a saccharine title.
Right. And so it's basically, instead of being a go-getter, someone who goes out there and gets it, they're a go-giver. They go out and they give and they serve. And it's this whole the universe listens. And so the more you give, the more you get. And so they preach this book all the time. Read it. It's amazing. It's very short. You can read it in the afternoon. Like, it's very, very short. And so I would always give that book as a gift when somebody would join our team, because it has valuable information for a business, from a business standpoint. And Lularoe was always about it. And so I bought a bunch of them and I would hand them out to my girls as they joined my team.
Well, it sounds like the book, The Go-Giver, it sounds like it's basically just The Secret.
It's
rewritten.
Sort of like that.
Like
yes.
Someone went through the Word document and just replaced, found synonyms for all the different words. They went through a thesaurus. And then secondly, I think that when you refer people to your customers to another consultant, I think that actually builds trust between you and the customer. I would assume so, right? Because it's like, oh, well, she's not trying to make a sale out of me. She just wants to make me happy. So of course I'm going to keep going back to her. She has my best interests.
Exactly. And that's how I ran my team. And that's how I ran my shopping group. Because for me, I saw that vision that Lularoe had, that they had way back when, that they clearly have lost sight of now, but had way back then. And I said, I can align with this. Like, I understand. I am such a giver. I am the kind of person that will give you my jacket in the rain and I'll be like, it's fine. It's cool. Like, it's fine. Like, you are more cold than I am. Have it. I will give you my last bite. I will do anything to help you. My husband, it drives him crazy, but I will volunteer to do whatever you need me to do because I am a giving person. And so that resonated so much within me. I was like, yes, I can understand this. I loved that there was no catalog because of that. And for me, that is a very non-MLM thing, to give customers away. Because every single time I had ever been approached by someone in an MLM, it was always like, oh my gosh, girl, here's my link. You're just like, okay. And it's so impersonal. And I hated that, like, impersonality of it, if that's even a word.
Well, you said or what Bloomberg said in your interview, they said, Roberta just really likes to talk to people. She's a very, very good. Yeah.
It's true. I mean, I live in a really small town, and a lot of people in this town have read the article because of me, obviously, and going, have you read my article? Oh my gosh, you guys got to read it. It's great. And so, like, I go to the grocery store and it's really like, hey, Roberta. And my husband just like rolls his eyes like, oh my God, everybody. But I am just inherently friendly and kind. And that's just how I was raised. And that's just how I am. And that resonated with me because I was like, I'm good at this. I can bring this to Lularoe. I can bring this to my business. And I think my personality and how I was comfortable talking to strangers and comfortable approaching people in a non-salesy way. I was never like, oh my God, I love your leggings. Here's my card. Like, I would never do that. I never even brought it up at all. And so for me, like, I resonated with the company because their mission statement was sort of kind of my mission statement too. I loved the whole, like, no competition because everyone has different things, because every print is different, because we only make a limited amount. It just felt very un-MLM for an MLM.
Right.
But now I'm seeing a much different story.
Right.
But when I joined, it felt completely different.
We'll get in a little bit later. We'll get in a little bit more about what kind of differences you saw from the time you started to the time you left. So how long were you in Lularoe in total?
From March 2016 until September of 2017. So roughly 20 months-ish, almost 2 years, but not quite.
Yeah. And
but I didn't officially resign until January of this year. So almost 2 years.
Right. And you mentioned the other day, now you made it up a couple of levels and you had a pretty decently sized team built up. How many people were actually underneath you?
So I think at the height, we had 75 girls underneath us. And then I had 13 directly underneath me. And then the remaining was variations of people underneath those people. So total on my team was about 75.
Right.
Sort of confusing.
Yeah. And I have occasionally a little bit hard time trying to understand, because like we were talking the other day about once they get to a certain level, then they split off, and then you don't have all of those people underneath you anymore and all that stuff. It's so complicated. Like, they just made it so unnecessarily complicated.
It's really complicated.
So now I think that most of the reason why you were able to be so successful in this company and able to get so many customers and so many people underneath you would absolutely have to be because you're such a friendly person. You're so easy to talk to. You're so willing to talk to people. You make everything just sound so like chipper and happy and everything's great and we're all just having a good time, and that's really, that's really what makes people successful in sales positions, is being easy to talk to, and you're absolutely just so easy to talk to. So
yeah, Katie and I really enjoyed our preliminary interview with you.
Thank
I
you.
know I had to jet out early because I had to go do some errands for my dad, but yeah, we really, really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed it as well. I love talking to people. I love hearing people's stories. I love finding commonality between people where you're like, oh my gosh, I would have never expected that you also like this weird, strange, very specific thing that I like.
Right.
And that I find joy in that in my life.
Absolutely.
And people like that.
That helped your hustle. Well, you didn't feel like you were hustling at
Never.
that time, but that helped.
I never felt like I had to hustle ever.
Right. And I get that vibe from you. So, but you think that gift of gab and just that genuine connection to people really, really kept you successful?
I think so. I'm a friend collector. I meet people everywhere. Add me on Facebook, become my friend. Let's hang out. And so I had a lot of people on my Facebook page. And when I decided, hey, you guys, I'm going to do Lularoe, I know everyone's been talking about it. I want to say I posted it and was like, my inventory's coming. I'm super excited. I had so many friends reach out and say, oh my God, I've been thinking about joining Lularoe and I want to be on your team. And so it was very, very easy for me to just kind of, and I wasn't even like casting a net, but it's sort of kind of what it became. And so many people on my list were like, hey, I've been looking at this and I was thinking about joining. And my husband said, hey, go for it. I'm going to be on your team. Okay, hey. And so it grew very, very fast. And I never felt like I was being pressury to people. I never had that high pressure sales pitch, like, you got to sign right now. If you don't sign right now, you know what I mean? Like, I hate that. I like being able to have time to talk to my husband about big decisions. We have respect for each other. That's what we do in our marriage, is big decisions. It's something that we talk about. And so there were a lot of times when these women would reach out to me and I would say, you know what? Give yourself a few days. Talk to your husband, talk to your friends, see if this is a good fit for you. It's not going to be a good fit for everybody, but if it is a good fit for you, then come back and talk to me and we can talk about the next steps. It was never pressure. It was never predatory. I didn't want to try to convince someone to spend upwards of $5,000 if I was like, this chick's a total loser. She's never going to win, but I would love that $300 bonus. Like, I would not be able to look myself in the mirror if I was that kind of person. And so I was very much like, take the time, do the research, educate yourself, make sure this is something you really want to do before doing it.
Right,
And
especially with a huge $5,000 to $10,000 investment, especially if you
yes,
want leggings or anything, you have to warn people. A lot of consultants don't, but it was good of you to start warning people. And then I think that actually probably worked in your benefit that you did that. So you
yeah.
never felt like that you were recruiting your own competition or anything.
I 100%, like, I don't know if I was already like deep, but 100% I didn't feel like I was recruiting my own competition. I honestly felt like I was recruiting a team of like-minded women who wanted to all help each other. We had a team multi-sale. Every single time one of my girls onboarded, I would post in my shopping group that had, I think at the height, I think there was probably 6 or 7,000 in there. And I would say, hey, you guys, Amanda just onboarded today. She's got amazing inventory. You need to go check it out. And I would make a post and I would put her group link in there and my shoppers would join because they were like, Roberta's girls are amazing. They support each other. They're helpful. And so it was never a competition thing for me. I wanted to help these women. And if getting them a few customers and I took a hit on sales because they were having a successful launch, that's just what I did. I mean, I feel like that's just part of being a leader, is taking one for your team so that they can be in the light of the glory for a little bit. And for me, it really wasn't that big of a deal because when they did well, I did well. And so I always stress that, you guys, if you're doing well, I'm doing well. Like, let's promote your thing. Let's do this. I'll promote it in my group. We'll get you some sales. I don't know of a lot of Lularoe uplines that did that for other people, because a lot of people were like, wow, I can't believe you're promoting your team in your own page. But for me, that's part of it. Being supportive and having a desire to help others is part of it. And so I never, ever felt like I was recruiting my own competition.
And that, okay, so you said, so you mean on your team, you're not like talking about your downline, because once you get money from, what would be so wrong with promoting somebody who just onboarded if they're underneath you?
That exactly. I mean, 100%. Like, they do well, which means my bonus goes up.
I mean, yeah,
Which
you want your
means
team
my
to be
customers are now
successful.
like, oh, you told me to go shop Amanda's sale and I got a really great deal. I trust you. Like, it just seemed like a win-win-win for everybody. But I know there's a lot of people that will not do that because they have this whole like, oh, that's my competition. But I never felt that way. But I'm also very secure in myself and like have never felt that someone doing something the same as me takes away from me.
And speaking of like recruiting and everything, can you
Mm-hmm.
explain what stacking is? I know you explained it a little bit in the article, but could you kind of go more into it?
Okay, so stacking was something that started to happen because people were joining so fast. Lularoe Home Office would tell us, although not everybody listened, that they didn't want us to have more than like 15 to 20 people on our line, on our main line, which is people who are directly underneath you, signed up through your link and are directly underneath you. So we call those directs. So they don't want you to have more than 15 to 20 directs, because at that point you're overloading yourself, because those are the 15 to 20 people that you're going to personally train, and then also then teach them how to train their downlines and their directs and so on and so forth. And so what happened was there were so many people coming into the company that there was way too many people on these higher ups direct line, that they started what they called, quote unquote, co-sponsoring, which is what happened with me. So I reached out to my upline, who then said, oh, I'm going to co-sponsor you with this person who's in San Diego. And so I was under this one girl, not the original girl that I messaged, but I was under this other girl. And I was stacked on her team because I approached one consultant and then was put on someone else's team. But it's still a benefit to that original person. Does that make sense? It's so crazy and convoluted. Like, I totally understand when people are like, wait, what? Just hit that back button and listen to it again. But it's very, very confusing. So what happened was there were so many people coming in that these sponsors started thinking, well, why don't we put these under our people underneath us and build them up so that they can hit their ranks faster so that we can hit the next rank faster as well. So they started stacking people, and then they started stacking me. And I would get phone calls or text messages 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night saying, hey, are you awake? And I'd be like, yeah, what's up? Like, I'm watching Forensic Files. What's going on? And they would be like, I've got a girl that wants to sign right now. Get online, get on Facebook. I'm going to start a group chat. She wants to sign right now. I'm like, oh, okay. And so I would log in and they would be like, hey, Roberta, this is so-and-so. She wants to join right now. Where's your link? And I'd be like, hi, so-and-so. I'd try to talk to him, and it was just kind of like, it was very much like, this is business. Get your link out there, send them the link, get them signed up. And so stacking essentially is placing people underneath separate lines underneath you to build those lines up so that you can rank faster as well. Does that make sense?
Kind of. Yeah, it kind of. I mean, what do you think, Katie?
I forgot that I was muted, but yeah, I mean, like it's still like just as confusing as every other bit of like not onboarding people, but bringing people onto your team and how all of that works. Like, but it does make a little bit more sense that way. And since we're talking about bringing people, recruiting and bringing people onto your team, what in your opinion, what makes you personally think that Lularoe is more of a pyramid scheme?
Well, the main one is that it actually was a pyramid scheme. That's the main reason I think it is or was a pyramid scheme, is because for the first, how old is Lularoe? I think they just turned 5. So for the first like 4 and a handful of months of their existence, they literally were a pyramid scheme. Where I guess the FTC, there's all these guidelines of what is and what isn't a pyramid scheme.
Right.
But essentially
that
a pyramid
very,
scheme.
very vague.
Right. That are all very
very
vague because, hey, let's leave enough loopholes in there. A pyramid scheme essentially is like, it's like an endless chain scheme of buying things and like never actually like selling things, just the buying of things.
Right.
And so in the very beginning, the way that you would get your bonuses in Lularoe was you had to purchase a certain amount of inventory. So if you were selling, and in the beginning it was very easy, you were selling so much that you just had to purchase so much because you were replenishing. So I always hit my rank because I had to buy this stuff because I was selling so much of it. But you had, and there's, of course, to make it even more confusing, there's a different requirement for each rank, whether you're just a retailer or a sponsor, which a sponsor is anybody that has anyone under them, like one person, 100 people, everybody that has someone underneath them is technically called a sponsor. Once you have 10 people underneath you, and I'll just make it easy and just say 10. If you have 10 people underneath you, you become a trainer. And then when you have 3 trainers underneath you, you become a coach. And then when you have 3 trainers and 3 coaches underneath you, you become a mentor. So it's this endless, like, you got to get more people. You got to get more people underneath you to hit those ranks so that you can hit the ranks. That's where the stacking comes in, because you're stacking this person to hit trainer and stacking this person to hit coach so that you can hit mentor or whatever it is. And putting people in these little boxes so that all your little boxes are filled up.
But there is some point at which the people underneath you move out from under you, don't they? If somebody underneath you hits a certain rank and then they're no longer under you. So if you're trying to hit the next rank, I feel like maybe it was from trainer to mentor.
So
maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
What happens is, this actually did happen. This happened to someone on my team. I love her very much. She is also going out of business and no longer with the company. But she had, when you hit trainer, you have to have at least 3 of those people, at least 3 of the 10 underneath you need to be directly yours. You can have 3 directs and then have one of those people have 7 people underneath them, and it still counts as 10. But once someone hits a rank underneath you, you lose that tree. So this girl, what happened was, in the middle of the month, she hit her 10th person and she hit trainer. And she was like, oh my God, I'm a trainer. I'm so excited. I'm like, oh, I'm so happy for you. We made this whole thing like, she's a trainer. She's a trainer. I was so excited because she worked so hard. And then like the day before or the last day of the month, the girl that was underneath her got one more person onboarded. That was her 10th. She became a trainer, was no longer a part of the original girl's count. So now
Oh my
this girl
God.
only had 3 because the 10 that was underneath this other girl were completely wiped out because this girl is a trainer now.
Yeah.
And her rank went from trainer back down to sponsor. And
Oh my
she like,
God.
messages me and she was so upset and I was so upset and I was like, it's not fair. I'm so sorry. I wish there was something I could do. And like when I reached out to my sponsor about this, like, hey, come on, and she was like, it's unfair, but you shouldn't have celebrated before you knew for a fact. I was like, wow, okay, that's awesome. Thank you. Like,
Yeah.
she's like,
Yeah.
you shouldn't have told everyone she was a trainer until she hit it officially. I was like, that's missing the point entirely, but okay, thank you. And so it's so confusing. And so it's like you're building this team to hit these ranks, but then like you have to have a big enough team so that when that one girl hits trainer and you lose all of her people underneath you, that you still have enough people underneath you to retain your rank as well. And so there really is this endless need to recruit because when Lularoe started, when the buyback happened and all of a sudden I had a ton of people on my team go, you know what? I had a great time. I'm done. I'm going to jump out with this 100% buyback. I want to say I lost like 40 people in like 3 months. It was just like message after message. Oh, I'm going to go. I got a new job or I'm pregnant or I'm getting married or I'm moving, whatever. Totally normal excuses for wanting to leave the business. And in the back of my mind, I was like, oh my God, like now I'm going to have to find another person to replace her so that I can keep my rank. But then at the same time, I was like, I completely understand. I'm not mad at you. I love you. We can stay friends, of course. Like, let's go have drinks next week. Don't even worry about it. And I think me also, I'm one of those, I was a trainer and I'm one of those trainers and just leaders that didn't excommunicate my team when they left. I stayed friends with all of them. Some of them unfriended me because they didn't want to see Lularoe stuff anymore. And we've since become friends again. But I was not the excommunicator of like my team where I'm like, sorry.
Right. Which is really
And
common
so,
with, yeah, it's really common in MLMs where if somebody leaves, anyone that was involved around them, they're either they choose to stop talking to you or they're told to stop talking to you.
yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, to go back to the original question about it being a pyramid scheme, it's a pyramid scheme. It was originally a pyramid scheme because we had to buy product to get our rank and to get our bonuses. I mean, I remember like looking and going, oh crap, I have 5 pieces I have to buy by the end of the month to hit my bonus. And I knew that I was going to get it because I needed to order anyway. But it's like, I will need to spend $500 to get this $700 check or whatever. And a lot of people, unfortunately, are the opposite, where they're like, I'm going to need to spend $500 to get this $150 check. And you're like,
Yeah.
no, it's not worth it.
Right.
Fortunately for me, I had enough people underneath me that I wasn't having to do that. But I do know, I mean, I've heard all kinds of stories, and I'm sure you'll hear more stories too when you talk to other people, but stories of sponsors and mentors buying their bonus, going, oh, I have to buy 250 pieces, buying their 250 pieces, knowing they don't really need it, and then turning around and quote unquote wholesaling that order to their team. Like, hey guys, bought way too many Carlys, gonna wholesale a few. And
Right.
knowing that they bought those specifically for the ability to get their bonus and that they would just sell those back and get their money
Right.
back. And
Right.
so there was a lot of people that were taking advantage of this this pay to play, pay to get your bonus kind of thing, which is the whole thing of a pyramid scheme, is that you're paying to get that bonus and not selling to get that bonus. So in July, of 2017 is when they officially switched over to the new compensation plan, which was sales based. And it was July, which is notoriously slow. And 2017 was, you know, the downturn of the trend.
Mm-hmm.
And so people are already not buying because it's summer vacation and who needs leggings in the summer. And the trend is no longer this, oh my God, I'll pay $50 for those. I need those. I need them. You know what I mean? Like spending $200 for a pair of leggings on eBay. It's just not happening anymore. The trend of Lularoe is dying. And so they switched to this compensation plan, and so many people, their business and their checks and everything just tanked because it was kind of just out from under us. I mean, we heard about it earlier in the year, like, oh, we're going to a new compensation plan, but we really didn't know what was going to happen. And then I've heard so many stories from people going like, and me too, like my bonus check paid for all the bills and my inventory. I just, you know, buy 10 shirts, sell 10 shirts, sell 10 shirts, buy 10 shirts, sell 10 shirts, buy 10 shirts. That's sort of how I did it. And I just kind of kept recycling that into my business so that I would have inventory. And my bonus checks were what I paid all of our bills with. And so when my bonus checks went from $6,000 to $500, that's a big pay cut overnight.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, great. And then, you know, you're scrambling and it was just bad all around. And so when the business was an illegal pyramid scheme, it was fantastic. And clearly I had no idea that it was an illegal pyramid scheme until after I left Lularoe, joined Defective, read all of this stuff and went, holy shit, what was I a part of? I mean, it really was. I mean, I'm not naive, but at the same time, like I'm trusting. And so when home office would tell us, we're not a pyramid scheme, we're not doing anything illegal, we're very compliant, I believed them. I trusted them.
Of course. Well, I mean,
and that's the beginning of the downfall. Is trusting them.
Yeah, and especially when you're, you know, it's a company that you're already in, and you think it's going to be a great time. Like you don't really want to believe that it's a pyramid scheme. You don't want to believe that it's something bad. So of course you're going to believe what they tell you. You're going to believe them when they say, "No, everything's okay. We're fine. It's all good." You know, you're not going to. I feel like that's it's just you want to make it okay. You want it to be okay. So, and this is a little bit off topic, but I've seen, and I know other people have seen this too, and we had one specifically in the group that everyone was just appalled and shocked by, and it was just so bizarre. But these sellers that will piece together these outfits of just you know where I'm going with this, of just, you know, any random articles of clothing that they're unable to sell, and then they'll include one thing that people really want, like this particular one, it was a pair of black leggings, which were like, you know, a big
that was the
unicorn.
Those black leggings were okay.
Because you can't get black leggings anywhere else.
It's like you have to buy the clown leggings with the Dorito dress and the ugly orange striped sweater with this Cassie that has penguins on it. And the black leggings for, you know, $327. This is an amazing deal.
Yeah, and this one, it was like the one pair. It was like the one pair of black leggings, another pair of just absolutely ugly leggings, like two different shirts, two different cardigan style tops. Just all kind, and I can't even remember how much it ended up being. It was several $100s though, and it was just like, it's insane to me that somebody would be willing to spend that, because she sold it. It sold. But it's insane to me that somebody would be willing to spend that much money on this just like horrendously pieced together. Of course, you don't have to wear it as an outfit, but all of the pieces were just so ugly that it was like, who would buy this?
Yeah.
And, you know, they purposefully put those pieces with it because they're pieces that they can't sell otherwise.
100%. I have seen some of the ugliest things, and I'm like, what? Because to me, it's so unethical. I mean, morally for me, it's unethical to sell 3 horrendously ugly things and one okay thing that you could get anywhere else for way cheaper.
I
And
actually have a
then
question
it's like,
regarding
what?
that.
Okay.
I have a question. Do you think that Lularoe was purposely putting out ugly prints that they couldn't sell?
Well, I think they were just mass producing things because there was so much need and there was so much want. You know, we had so much demand and very little supply. And so when they upped production, it literally was like they were making so many arts a day. And you can't, I mean, I'm a creative person, but I would not be able to sit there for 8 hours and come up with 800 beautiful things, maybe 5 or 6 beautiful things, and maybe, 50 ugly things. But, originally the art department was allegedly taking clip art from the internet and stealing. And that for me was one of the last straws. One of the reasons that I left was this whole theft of these copyrighted images. Being someone who is creative and who has respect for people's intellectual property and artistic process, for me, seeing those stolen prints on leggings was a stab in the back for me, because I would never align myself with a company that would do that to artists. And so I think what happened was, after they got caught stealing all of these copywritten things, and I know there has been several lawsuits that have been settled out of court, so this is not common knowledge if you do enough digging, but these clip arts were stolen and produced into Lularoe leggings, and those were all the unicorns that everybody wanted and all the amazing things. And once that was found out and shut down, they don't have the ability to just take things off the internet anymore. They have to come up with them themselves. And being creative is not super easy for everybody. I mean, I'm creative and I'm not that creative.
Yeah.
But I honestly think
I am not creative at all.
I honestly think that these artists are like, triangles. I don't know. I don't know what you want me to do, but here's some triangles on a thing. And let's put some flowers and put some triangles behind it. And we're just going to put more triangles on things. And there's a lot of triangles in Lularoe, and I don't understand why.
I feel like maybe somebody in the art design department was trying to send a message, like one of those SOS things, like
Illuminati. Coded.
It's a pyramid scheme.
But so, I mean, I don't think that they intentionally were like, let's make it as ugly as possible. But at the same time, they're like, it doesn't matter what it looks like because the consultants buy it blind.
Yeah.
And once once Lularoe gets their money, they don't care if I sell it. I'm the consumer in Lularoe. I'm buying. Their wholesale prices are retail. We buy shirts for $15, $16. We're buying dresses for $25 to $30. That's what you go to Target and buy a dress for.
Yeah.
The quality of Lularoe and Target are not that far off. They're made in very similar factories. I think Lularoe is made in factories that sells Old Navy. So it's very similar product, but I'm buying it at quote unquote wholesale, which is actually industry retail, and then doubling it and selling it for, twice the retail of a normal store, and going, well, it's worth it because it's Lularoe. It's worth it because it's Lularoe and it's limited edition and it's better than everything and it's soft as butter. And you're like, oh my God, it is as soft as butter and I need them. And then it becomes this, it was the Beanie Babies of my adult life. It was like, I need the Beanie Baby. I need it. And you're like, why? I never got into Beanie Babies. My sister was super into them. And I would look at her like, what is going on? And my mom would buy them because my sister loved them. And it's the Beanie Babies. It was the collection. I can't even tell you how many pictures of people would be like, here's my leggings collection. And I was guilty of it too. I've shown pictures of my leggings collection and been like, this one's for
Yeah.
this, and this one's because I love donuts, and this one's because of this. And, you know, whatever. But it's
I
just crazy.
I accidentally joined, and I did do this by accident, but I got let in, so I stayed. But I accidentally joined a sellers group for a different company that sells leggings, and it's the same type of company, but it's a different one. And I see posts in there all the time where they do exactly that. They will like take pictures and show, and it's customers, because there's one person in there that's a seller because it's her group. So it's customers that are like posting pictures of their leggings collection, and it's just like, I remember taking screenshots and sending it to like the group chat for the mods in the group and being like, oh my god, you guys, look at this, this is so bizarre. And I saw one that was I saw one that was like those plastic shoe, like over the door shoe racks where it's just like the bags.
Oh,
You know what
yeah.
I'm talking about?
Uh-huh.
And it had like a pair of leggings in every slot, and it was a pretty good sized one, so there was at least like 36 slots. And she was like,
Yeah.
oh, I need to get another one for my leggings. I'm like, who has that many fucking pairs of leggings? How are you ever gonna wear those? Even if you wear them every day, that's more than a month's worth of leggings. Who needs that? Nobody needs that. It's just it's mind-boggling. It's crazy.
Well, you know, there's this cult mentality in Lularoe. And I think that this whole like hoarding and collecting of leggings goes with that cult mentality. These women, you're a part of something. You're included in something. Everyone's looking for these leggings. Ha ha, I found them first. And it's this whole like thing. Like I it's just so strange, but there's just this crazy amount of culty stuff in Lularoe from the meme that went around in the beginning that's like, I think I joined a leggings cult and I'm okay with it, to the actual stuff that you hear from people going, it's a cult. Or like when I left, it felt like a cult.
So in the article, you talked a little bit about getting bad products, especially products that smelled really bad.
Oh my God. Yes. In the summer of 2016, I was prepping to go to a convention and I had a bunch of boxes coming. So this whole incident with the smelly and the wet and the moldy stuff that I talked about with Bloomberg happened throughout the entire summer. I got multiple boxes. The first ones that came that were really like, they were wet, and I didn't like, I was opening the box and going, what the heck? Because I could see condensation in the plastic. And I was like, what is going on? Why are these wet? And so I set them aside, and they were so wet. Not only was there condensation in the bags, but I had to take them out and wring them out. They were soaking wet. It was really, really gross. They were really heavy and wet. And I was like, what? So I reach up and I say, hey, I just got like a box full of wet leggings. What should I do? And was told like, oh my gosh, this never happens. Let me see. And like the answer was basically like, okay, take them out of the packages and then air them out and let them dry and then resell them.
Well, that shouldn't even have to be done with any kind of inventory you're
right?
buying. Like, why?
I was like, hey, shouldn't the stuff that I'm getting be ready to sell without me having to dry them out or wash them? And so that was the first thing. I even got Carly's that were soaking wet. That was really strange, like a month later. But the one that was the grossest is there was a weird smell. And I didn't notice it when I opened the box, because usually it always smells like plastic and cardboard anyway. You can't really smell this weird funky smell. And so I used to keep my leggings in these plastic bins. You can get at like Target. They're like $5. They have the lid. And so I would just sort them. Okay, solid. I had a tall and curvy solid and a OS solid. And then I had a tall and curvy print and a one size print. So they were organized that way. So I would go through it. I would double check my back order slips if I got any or anything. And then I would store them in these leggings. One would stay out to get photographed. The rest would stay in these leggings in the bins as back stock. So I was in there one day and there was this really weird stink and it smelled like cat pee or like an animal. And I was like, what? And like, there's no animals in the room. And so I was like, what's going on? Like, did my mom's cat, because my stuff used to be at my mom's house, did my mom's cat get in here? That was not the case. I opened up a bin looking for the smell. It was getting stronger. I opened up this bin and it really did. I said in the article that it hit me like whoosh. And it really was. It was just this like whoosh of nasty. When you open up, you know, like when you're looking for the stink in the fridge and you find the leftovers and you open it up and you're like, that's it. It was so gross.
We need to hear the exact line you used in the article because
okay.
It is yeah.
Sasha loves it so much.
I do.
I was so surprised that Bloomberg even wrote that. I was like, dang, this must be a first. So I can only compare this scent. It is so accurate. It literally smells like somebody pooped in like a wet chlorinated bathing suit and then put it in a Ziploc bag and like stuck it in the sun for like a week or two. And then you open it up and that's what the leggings smelled like. They were so rancid. I could not even deal with them. They were so bad. I aired them out because I said, "What do I do with these?"
I don't mean to laugh over you. I should just mute my mic, but
it really was so gross. Like, I wish I was making this up. I still have them. They are in a trash bag outside on my balcony, sealed up. If anybody doesn't believe me, we can meet up at a Starbucks somewhere and I will bring you a pair. I will mail you a pair. It doesn't matter. They are so nasty. So it really did smell like a poop in a bathing suit. It was so gross. And
with cat pee. With
a little cat pee sprinkle on the side. So gross. And so I was like, okay, these leggings stink. And again, oh my God, it's so weird. That never happens. Always. There's always this canned response of like, we're perfect. How weird. Something must have slipped through on an accident. And I'm like, okay. I was told to air them out. I said, okay, fine. I'll air them out. That's what happens sometimes. The dye can be smelly. The dye saturation can be smelly. I'm like, okay. So I air them out.
Like a load of bullshit.
Well, that is not what dye smells like.
So just those leggings, though. None of the other leggings. Just those. And so I aired them out. And all that it did was make the entire house smell like poop in a bathing suit. And so I said, you know what? We're good. I put them back in the bags. I put them in not a poly mailer, in like a bubble, like a flat rate bubble mailer that you get at the post office. I stuffed them all in there and I sealed it. And then I wrote stinky leggings, do not open or whatever. And I put them in my, excuse me. I put them in my room in the back where the damages were. Lularoe then asked me to fill out a form to get a refund. I filled out the form. There was a drop-down menu option that said the reason for the problem was stinky leggings, which they now deny, but it was there. I wish I would have screenshotted. Back then, I didn't think I needed to. It said stinky leggings. I opened up the ticket. They closed it. I reopened it. They closed it. I mean, it happened over and over and over again. I fought them for months. And then eventually they're like, okay, here's a $42 credit. I'm like, great. Now I get to spend $500 to get my $42 credit. That's great.
Right.
So
and on that topic, you didn't really, if you had damaged product or an issue with the product, they didn't really give refunds, did they?
No, you could not get a refund. You would get there's so many different ways that they did it in my time that I was in Lularoe. I think now you have to have exactly 15 items and you mail them 15 items and they, I think, refund you. I don't know how it's done now. But back then you used to mail them in and then they said, don't mail them in. We don't want you to mail them in anymore. Just send us pictures. So I remember sending in pictures of the stinky leggings and they're like, we can't see the damage. And I was like, you're right. It's because they stink and I can't photograph that. And they like refused to refund me. It just back and forth. But it's like, you don't get a refund. They used to maybe like you could send in a pair of leggings and they would send you new leggings. And so it was sort of kind of a refund. But now what they do is they just credit your account, or they were at the time, just crediting your account for your, 6 pairs of leggings. Okay, here's $63 or whatever it is.
Right.
And you'd be like, okay, cool, thanks. But you can't get that money off. You have to purchase and then use it as a credit. And so there's no way to just get your money back. You literally have to spend money to get the potential to make your money back, hopefully, if what you get sells. Like, it's just a nightmare.
And the
It's just
biggest
horrible.
issue with that, yeah, the biggest issue with that is that they say, no, we're not going to give you your money back. They'll only give you credits so that you can only spend it with them.
Mm-hmm.
They can't,
Oh yeah, it's a
so then
design.
they have that money and it's theirs forever. You're not getting it back.
And they do that stuff all the time. They'll do that stuff like, oh, we ran out of food at convention, even though we sold 25,000 tickets and we knew exactly how many people were going to be here. We still ran out of food. So we gave everybody a $50 credit in your back office.
Right.
So everybody's like, oh my God, Lularoe has our backs, you guys. They gave us $50. And I'm like, yeah, but now I have to spend $450 to use it.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure they don't have my back.
Yeah, and that's
like,
the other huge
was,
issue.
That was like the beginning of the end. Like, I'm just
Right.
like, okay, I'm done.
Right. And that's the other huge issue with the credits is that you have to spend a minimum amount. So like you were saying, if they give you like $50 in credits, you can't just use that and buy like a couple of pairs of leggings. You have to, you would, I feel like the only way to benefit from that would be to accrue $400, $500 worth of credits and then use that to make your minimum order. But the only way to use them is to then spend $450 more just to use the money that should be yours.
Right.
So, moving on a little bit.
Originally, really quick, originally you had to order 33 pieces at a time.
Right.
Minimum. Then it changed to 30. And then just recently they changed it down to 15, which to me is very telling.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
You used to have to order 30 pieces at a time. Everybody's been buying from Goob people. Going out of business is what it stands for. So people would rather buy from me because they can see what I have. And they're like, okay, I'm going to take that.
Right.
And you can buy 6 pieces from me if that's what you want.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And
so people were buying
stock
from Goob because they didn't want to have to spend $500 to get a bunch of random stuff.
Yeah.
That's returns anyway, which is what they're doing. And so people started buying Goob, and then Lularoe was like, no one's buying from us anymore, I'm assuming. And so they reduced the minimum buy for an order by half.
Yeah.
It just seems to me like, hey, now it's even less, buy more.
Right.
Buy more to sell more. I mean, that's what they always say.
And they had a lot of out of stock issues too. I remember the other day you mentioned that you would order a box, you would make your minimum order, and it would come in and it would be like 3 pairs of leggings and a Carly, and they didn't like notify you. They didn't say, hey, we don't have any of that shit.
Sometimes you would get a piece of paper that was like a Xerox copy of like an old thing that they used to use that they ran out of. And it would be like a Xerox copy or just a, whatever copy that's like, these items that you purchased were out of stock. You will get a box eventually, hopefully, with this stuff in it. So you'd order 30 pieces. You might get, 25 of them. And then 2 weeks later, you might get a box with the rest of the 5 pieces. And you're like, great. But more commonly, you would just get like a note that was like, these pieces are out of order. We've credited your account. So you're like, awesome. Now I need to spend more money to get the money I've already spent.
Right. Again, you have to spend more money just to spend your own money. So moving on a little bit so we can get a little towards, we can wrap it up a little bit. So what were, and you've mentioned throughout the episode some of, that was a reason that I left, that was a reason that I left. So can you give us kind of briefly, because I know you have a lot of reasons for leaving. So what were those reasons?
I also want to hear the Disneyland trip again. I thought that was really interesting.
Oh, when we went to Disney for the Disney launch?
I believe so. It was where you said that that mentors were able to bring consultants,
Oh,
but
yes, yes, yes. Okay,
yes.
yes. Okay, yes, that's what it was. Okay. So I will talk about that. That was a leadership. All right. That
Okay.
was leadership. So yeah, I'll talk about that too. Um, yeah, there was just so many little things, and I think these little things on their own aren't that big of a deal. And I think that's why a lot of people are still in, because they're like, well, back orders happen. And you're like, well, not really in real life. But in Lularoe, these little things happen, and people just kind of take them as that's the cost of business, because when you reach out and ask, that's this canned response that you get back. Well, you can't make an omelet without cracking a few eggs. You're like, okay, but the stuff I ordered didn't come, and now I have to spend more money to get the stuff. Like, it's just ridiculous.
They've cracked
So,
the whole dozen eggs and then some.
right.
They've cracked a baker's dozen of eggs.
So there were so many reasons that I left, and they just compounded all together. And eventually I couldn't look at myself in the mirror anymore. In the very beginning, I would order boxes and I would tear into them as soon as UPS. I would like go live in my group and be like, oh my God, you guys, UPS is here. He's delivering boxes. Oh my God, let's look at them. And toward the end, the boxes would show up and they'd sit for like 3 or 4 days before I even opened them, because it was just a box of dread for me. I was like, oh, I can't fake this anymore. I can't do this anymore. It's too much work. I can't. And I say it's too much work, but not in the way that like a job is too much work. It was, it, and I hope there's a retailer out there listening to this right now and hears me when I say that it's too much work, because for the amount of time that I was putting in and the amount of time that I was taking away from my family, because I had to work all these extra hours to make the flat lays and the outfits and the, clothes look better on a mannequin. You need to photograph it with the right light. You need a backdrop, because everybody's game is being elevated, that if you don't keep up with it, you get lost in the shuffle. And so it was just so much work to get anything done. And it didn't used to be that way. And it just felt like, hey, I'm working 90 hours a week and I'm not getting paid for 90 hours a week. And something's going on, and I can't stand by idly and watch this happen and just keep my mouth shut. And then, I had so many girls leave and they told me their reasons. And I was like, you know what? I never thought about that before. That's actually a really good point. And I started seeing all these things that people had been telling me and kind of just opening my eyes a little bit more and looking. And there had been so many times when people would be like, oh my gosh, did you hear about the drama? Blah, 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 blah. So-and-so is such a hater. Don't read her blog or don't go on her page because she's spewing hate and none of it's true, because we're all haters and losers and failures.
Right.
And so I'm the kind of person that if you tell me not to do something, the first thing I'm going to do is that exact thing you told me not to do. And so when I got like that, you shouldn't go on this blog, you shouldn't go into that group, I was like, read blog, join group. And I started seeing people expressing their true feelings about Lularoe, how they had been bankrupt, how they got divorced, how they had problems with their children and their marriage and their families. And I'm seeing these horror stories and I'm going, I'm part of the problem. If I'm still supporting this company and I am still I am part of the problem. I am part of the reason why this woman won't have money for Christmas presents, or this woman won't have money for a turkey dinner on Thanksgiving. I'm part of the problem.
That
And
must have been such a sinking feeling when you had
it
that light bulb
was.
moment. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I cried. I called my upline and I told her, we had a 45-minute phone conversation on a Friday afternoon. I was outside the nail salon. My friends were inside getting pedicures, and I'm on the phone and I'm crying. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. The copyright theft, I said, there's hundreds of them. It's overwhelming. These broken promises, the damages. Clearly, nobody cares that there's holes in leggings. Nobody cares. I was getting stuff where I'm like, there's a hole in this. Like, this isn't even, it was wet. It was stinky. It was sun bleached. It was moldy. I had garments that had mildew on them. And it was just like, that's weird. That never happens. And I'm like, are you serious? I'm the one person that it never happens. And I'm experiencing all of these things and it never happens. Like,
Yeah.
this can't be true. I can't be, it's too random that I'm the only one experiencing this. over the course of, all of these months. And so I started doing research. I started asking questions. I started educating myself. I started reading those blogs. I started posting in Defective. I started commenting on things. I started reading people's stories. And I started thinking, holy shit, someone needs to say something. And I felt this calling like, hey, you know what? You weren't a failure. I was very successful in Lularoe. I hit trainer within 4 months, which is really crazy fast. I was 2 people away from hitting coach when everything kind of went down. So, I mean, I'm in Southern California. I was friends with tons of people. I got to go to all the events because I was local, like the Disneyland leadership. I got to do all of these things. And for me, I was just like, I cannot be the face and not the voice. And so I decided that I needed to say something, that justice needed to be brought to this company. And if we couldn't bring justice to the consultants, then the best we could do was bring them information so that they could educate themselves and they could make their own educated decision. I have never told anybody, you should quit Lularoe, you should leave Lularoe, you should resign. I have never said that to anyone. I get random strangers messaging me constantly. I used to do interviews in Defective with people that had left, that had stories to share. So people would say, I saw your interview with Courtney. I saw your interview with Sam. What's going on? Can I talk to you? Can I share my experience with you? And these women were just going like, I've been struggling for months, but when I reach up to my upline, they just fill me full of these, unicorn rainbow sprinkles canned responses about how this is a great business opportunity and you just need to, work it. And they're like, I can't work it anymore. It's failing. This business is failing. There's too many people selling it. The quality has gone down. There's a level of greed in the corporation that I've never seen, except for maybe Bernie Madoff. He's a pretty good level of greed that I'm seeing. And it's just insane. It's just insane. And I thought, you know what? I can sit back. I can write this off. I can say goodbye. I'm no longer in. I'm resigned. I got it. Whatever. I'm done. But then I see these women who are struggling and saying, I saw your video. What can I do? How do I do this? How do I get out of this company? And I just say, educate yourself. Get some information. Figure out if this is what you want to do and if this is how you want to leave. And we start from there and we go from there. Reaching out to someone is the first step to leaving. If you want to leave, great. If you want to stay, great. Whatever you want to do. It's not going to affect me in any way.
Yeah.
If someone decides to stay in Lularoe. But if somebody wants the truth, it's out there. There's so much truth about this company now. If it was me 2 years ago searching, is Lularoe a scam and finding nothing? If you search that now, you will get pages and pages and pages and pages of YouTube videos and blog posts and all kinds of stuff. And it's just so unbelievably sad. And the things that they do, like this Disneyland leadership, where I wasn't allowed to go to the leadership because I was just a trainer, even though I was 2 away from coach. They said I couldn't go to the training except for the first day. And then I get there and there's a bunch of random people who aren't even trainers who have been invited by the mentors to come. And I'm like, why am I not here for this training? I actually need this training. I have a team that I would like to get this information for and teach my team. And instead they have these other people who don't even have teams. And I'm thinking, is it the FOMO? Is it the look what you could have? Look what you could get. Look what you could be if you just build a team. There's so much FOMO in Lularoe. Yeah. It's like, it's like, make sure you're posting that you're at Disneyland. Make sure you're posting you got your nails done. Make sure you're sharing those FOMO posts. That's what gets people in. That's what gets people interested in joining this company. Share those FOMO posts. So when you see those perfect photos, 100% that is a marketing ploy to get you to wish you had that life, to get you to message that consultant and say, how can I have what you have? And the answer is, there's nothing you can do to have what I have. This company, like it's a pyramid and you will never be a mentor. It is too saturated and people know too much about this company to ever be able to say, hey, I'm going to join tomorrow and I'm going to be a mentor. It's just not going to happen. And I just want people to have this realistic idea of what this company is. I mean, and I know we're trying to close, and I want to say one other thing. There was a time when I was so vulnerable in this company. My husband was not on board. And I reached out and I went up to Deanne, and I had met her a million times. And I said to her, I said, you know what? My husband is just not on board and I just don't know what to do. The money's coming in and I'm successful and my team is growing and everything is great, but he's just still not on board. And I'm sure she doesn't remember this, but there were a lot of people around. Maybe someone else remembers it. She said, well, if your husband's not on board, maybe you should just get a new husband. And then she kind of laughed. And I was like,
oh my
what?
gosh.
Yeah.
I was like, that is not what you tell someone when you say, what is the way for me to get my husband to be more supportive of my business, to tell me to find someone who is more supportive instead of the husband I already have? I was floored.
Let me go to the husband store.
Which
is
right? Let me just go get a new husband.
Which is so weird because they seem so so concerned about like people's marriages and stuff that it's just
they are incredibly obsessed with marriage, and there's consultants that were uninvited to things because they were single, and it was like, oh, I'm sorry, it's for couples. Even though you qualify to be here, the only qualification that you don't have is a husband, so you can't come. Yeah. It's very strange.
It is.
Yeah, so much for women's empowerment.
Right.
Because
right?
Yeah.
So much
super empowering.
All right.
I will say really quick, we do have I posted a live video last night on my business page, Roberta Blevins on Facebook. You find it. There's my regular page, and then there's my business page with my name. There's a video on there. We have a petition and a survey going around. So if you are a former consultant of Lularoe, we would love for you to fill out that survey. And if you are a person who would like to see a little more transparency in this company, fill out that petition, because we really, really, really want to get the word spread and really educate people that, this company is not as unicorn and sprinkles as everybody claims they are.
Well, we just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your day in beautiful California, for sharing your story. You are doing some really, really honorable work to let retailers and people who want to onboard know the perils of what's involved when you sign your life away to Lularoe, and to also offer a support network for ex-retailers. I mean, there couldn't be anything better than what you're doing.
Well, thank you. There are some days where I'm like, is this worth it? But, getting a message from somebody saying, I watched your video, I educated myself, I had a discussion with my husband, and we're resigning tomorrow, is like one of the most rewarding things. I am just like, wow, really? Like, I get to be that moment for somebody.
Right.
That's the turning point to go, hey, you know what? I'm just going to look a little deeper. And then you see that you don't like what you're looking at, and you're able to make that decision to leave. It's just, that's empowerment. And I really, really am happy that after all of this tumultuous relationship that I've had, that I do finally get to empower women again at the end of the rainbow. There is closure.
So, Katie, do you have any final thoughts?
Honestly, not particularly. I of course, want to thank Roberta for talking with us, and just, I know that you had to go through some really awful and stressful things and experiences to get here, but like you were just saying, it may just be worth it if you're able to help other people. It's terrible and it sucks, and I don't think any of us would wish any of this on anyone at all. But it is important to be an advocate for the people around you, and to speak out and say, hey, I had this experience and I know other people are having this experience too, and if you are, then contact me, talk to me. There's people out there that can help you, and it's just so important to get that out there, to let people know that there's people out there that can help them.
And I'll just say that all types of advocacy comes with a lot of heartache, because part of being an advocate is having a voice for people who are afraid to speak up for themselves.
Yes.
And on that note, that about wraps up the show. So thanks for listening. Make sure to tune in next week for part 2, where Katie and I will be interviewing Courtney Harwood. And she was the first mentor to leave Lularoe. So in other words, she was one of the first people at the top of the pyramid to just peace out. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or email us at soundslikemlm, but okay, no AY at the end of okay, just okay.com. A little housekeeping before we end. Katie, Zach, and I are all on that tweet machine now, so you'll be able to get the whole insider look into our lives, and I'm sure that's exactly what you guys want.
We're
also,
so
I would
interesting.
really like to up my internet cred and get some more followers. So add us. And if you have any suggestions for funny Twitter accounts I should follow me and just slide into my DMs. We will put our Twitter handles in the show notes. So as always, listeners, hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to tune in next week for part 2. I would actually really like to say, I've always wanted to say same bat time, same bat channel, but that doesn't really work for podcasts, because you just get them auto downloaded and listen at your own convenience. So I guess I'll sign off by saying, be safe, be smart, and don't get scammed. Bye.